Hi, I'm Danny Black, and welcome to the @SportsBalt podcast. On this podcast, I will be talking sports cards, collectibles, memorabilia. I'll be interviewing hobby guests. I will be talking about my own thoughts. I'll cover regular sports that relate to the hobby. That's the fun part. More importantly, I want you along for the ride. So click like and follow for more content, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Good morning, and welcome to a AM version of Sports Ball Podcast. I am lucky to be joined by my friend Tony Ramos, and it is pronounced Ramos, out of Reading, Pennsylvania. Reading is not Philadelphia. If you've ever been to Pennsylvania, they actually have multiple cities, and you are from an alternate city, I understand. So thank you for calling in from an alternate city and an undisclosed location. And Tony, welcome.
Danny, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm in a bunker somewhere west of Philadelphia. So glad to be here.
I believe that's what Will Smith said first. So, but maybe I'm just too old because I was a big Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan. So one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is, first of all, you and I mean, we've done stages together. We've done, other shows together. And I don't know, we always have fun together. So I like talking to people who are passionate. Most people will say they're passionate about cards, but there's a next level. When something connects to you and you feel a personal connection, whatever it is, and whether it's cards or collectibles or anything, I think that's a very healthy thing to go after and support. So I can't be an expert on everything. I've got most of it down, but not everything. So I like to have people on who I can learn from, even on a topic that maybe if I wasn't as old and humble, I'd be embarrassed to admit I don't know everything. And I'm going to give a quick example of what happens when you get a good guest who knows what they're talking about. So I wanted to share and reveal that we're going to be talking some Roberto Clemente today. And I pulled out this beautiful picture of Roberto Clemente. And, it's by one of my favorite artists. You can see it at the bottom of the screen, Greg Kreindler. And I just, I make a comment to Tony, isn't this beautiful? And Tony immediately says to me, you know where that card's from? I mean, you know where that picture's from? And I said, no. And he goes, 56, and there it is. So that's when somebody knows their stuff. When you picked up in 10 seconds, I've been preparing for this show and never caught it at all. So, talk about Clemente in your life. I mean, it's, obviously we're going to be spending some time on him today, and how you connected and where your passion from him, really is.
Yeah, so after getting back into the hobby recently, it's been about a year now. So, I mean, obviously I have the same story, collected as a kid, stopped and all that stuff. But so getting back into it, I wanted to collect something that was more than just run-of-the-mill guys like I collected back in the day. And I still dabble a little bit in that stuff, but it was, who can I collect that it means more to me than, just today's hot rookie that tomorrow is going to be nobody. And I'm looking back, I'm like, dude, this guy's staring me right in the face. And it's Roberto Clemente. And I mean, the accolades go on and on and on with this guy. But once I started digging into the cards, then I learned more about him than just everybody knows, he was played ball, did this and that, died in a plane crash, and that's it. But there was more to that. There was things, what did he do in the community? How did he go about playing ball and things like that? So as you dig into his cards and stuff, inevitably, if that's just me, when I go into something, it's all in. It's not just, let me get the best card and then move on to the next one. It's why, what happened, who, this, that, and the other. So, like when you put the picture up, I'm like, I know exactly what that is, because I mean, I've looked at those cards. The 56 is my favorite card of his. 55
really a second year.
Yep, hands down. I love the 56 Topps is my favorite set.
Okay,
hands down. If I'm not a set builder, but if I was ever to build a set, it would be that one.
See, it's funny because 55 has the Koufax and the Clemente. So to me, that's like, all right, half a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. 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 It's crazy. You have those two guys that, and with the thing with the fit and the 56 is there isn't those big, is there a real big rookie in that set? For the most part, it's affordable to build within, obviously within whatever your spending limits are. But yeah, that 56 is my favorite. So when you show that picture, I'm like, I know exactly what that is.
Well, that's very cool, and now it makes me respect both the artist Greg, who I already love, and Tops for what a freaking cool shot.
I want
Um,
that now. I want
well,
that picture.
I will say his work is all original, and it starts in the low five digits and goes into the six digits. So I've become a big fan of his website.
I was about to say,
um,
well, I want it, but I don't know about that I'm gonna have it, but I want it.
Yeah, no, I mean his stuff, by the way, is stunning. Free shout out to Greg. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your timeline, kind of age wise. When were you first exposed to him, and how long did it take for you to realize, oh, there's something different here?
Yeah. So as a Puerto Rican kid, it's almost like uh you know how some people have
Do
either a
you mind
picture.
me asking what generation?
Oh well, well, yeah, actually, first.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's
So
very personal. Not ninth.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, I was, but uh, growing up, you know how people have either
So,
in every community, it's either whatever it is, they have a picture of a religious thing, or in every community somehow. So, you know, yeah, exactly, right. So you got the
here,
Kofax.
I'm gonna stereotype here, but
Right,
yes.
exactly. I can tell exactly what your, background is by what ball player you have more often than not. So whether there's a picture of Clemente or something or whatever, in my house there was. My dad had a picture of Roberto Clemente. So, and I, as a kid, I didn't really know, but that name, you hear it all the time.
So
It's
he
in
was a
music.
sports fan, or was it a cultural love?
Sports fan. My dad's a huge baseball is
That's
my
a
dad.
blessing.
Yeah, yeah. So baseball was the first sport that I grew up watching, and then it evolved into baseball, basketball, and all that stuff. Yeah.
I know I'm
So,
not supposed to play favorites, but you're right.
but so seeing that stuff is it's everywhere. So when you go to the island, he's everywhere. But back then, I didn't know my. So what's weird is in the Puerto Rican, just coming up, we don't collect cards. It's about go to work, get paid on Friday, rinse, repeat, recycle, have an adult beverage here and there. But as far as collectibles and things like that, my dad never, we never went to a hobby shop. We never, any of that. But it was always in the back of my mind, just hearing the name and all that stuff. Forward, years later, now I'm back in the hobby, and that name that was way back in my head, way back as a kid, I'm like, you know what? Now I'm gonna go learn more about this guy, collect his things, and it's been a blast. Like I love the 55. I think I've looked at over 500 copies of that just because it to get the one that I have, it took me a while. I was very picky. I was looking for certain,
All
things
right,
in that.
I got to ask you to flash it now.
Sure. So this and then this guy, it took me oh almost about a year and a half, and it's put it up on the screen there. As you can see, it's centering's pretty nice.
That's
Um,
beautiful, beautiful
with
cards.
which with this card, the centering is a pain. This card is all over the place. I mean, you've been in the game, Danny, for a while. I'm sure you've seen a bunch of these,
Hmm.
and the centering for these guys are all over the place. So
Very very cool card, by the way.
yeah, so that's definitely my favorite card in my collection, and I don't know, and I actually would probably like another one just
Well,
because.
so would I. So if you have extra, you just send them my way because
Yeah,
I'm sitting. The only thing I can show you, and I'm embarrassed after that, is a 69 tops. But
gotcha.
I like it, so I'll take it. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring up, your connection with your heritage, and I'm talking about Sandy Koufax as a Jewish person, and we talk about the passion and where does it come from and that root. And for me, and I don't want to speak for other people, you know, Kovacs may be one of my favorite players because of that connection. Um, and I do feel that. I mean, that's a real thing for me.
Mhm.
There's other pitchers that, you can argue their careers and you can do this and that, but I'm going to, there, I do have that connection, and that does give me the passion. And I do try to PC Koufax what I can afford. Listen, Clemente and Koufax are not cheap guys to fall in love with.
No.
And so, do you think that's a fair assumption for people that I don't know. I was influenced by my parents. I was told the great Yom Kippur story, and Clemente has also a legendary story. Unfortunately, at the end of his life, but was that part like making it almost around the house, talking about it, and making it part of the culture of the family?
Yep, 1,000%. When I got the rookie card, I couldn't wait to call my dad and tell him.
That's awesome.
He had no idea really what, I mean, he knows what baseball cards are and things like that, but he never collected. But the whole point is like, I'm like, Dad, I have a rookie card of Roberto Clemente in it. And then we have, hour and a half conversation from that. So absolutely. And it's like collecting something like that resonates way more than, again, picking up whoever the hobby is all, fired up about. It doesn't, if you pick up Justin Herbert. I don't care about Justin Herbert at all. I have
I
no
was about to say very, very different.
Yeah, I have no connection to him at all. So like if I buy his card, it's probably because I want it to turn into a $5 million card one day. And as soon as it does, I'm just these Clemente things. Would I move them one day? Maybe, I don't know, but there's no rush to do so. They sit in my safe here, and I bring them out every once in a while, and I just love looking at them. So it's different, man. It takes me to a place where it takes me actually to a place where I'm like, I wonder how he was in person. I would have loved to have been around and all those guys that he played with, because everybody has nothing but good things to say about him. So
All right. Well,
yeah.
we might have just created a 3-hour episode here. So I've got a couple
Yeah.
questions because you got my brain going about Roberto right now. Quickly, for those people who don't know, I referenced the end of his life, and there was a story there. If you quickly give us the synopsis there for those who don't know.
Yeah, so real quick, there was a hurricane in Nicaragua, end of December of 1972. Clemente had ties there. He coached summer league teams there and things like that, a winter ball and things like that there. So, um, and basically he was in charge. He had a foundation that sent relief stuff down there, and it for what things were going on in the government that the supplies weren't getting there, and he took it upon himself. He's like, you know what, I'm gonna get on the plane myself and make sure that these people get the relief aid that they need. Long story short, a lot of factors, pilot, overloaded plane, look into it, it's tragic, man. So loads up the plane goes up, within minutes plane goes down, and the body never found. To this day, it's a people go to the site, and just like you look out there, and it's a rough, the water's crashing and everything. And dude, the guy died doing probably what he probably loved more than baseball, was just helping people.
I
So
mean, and I think that's one of the things that gets lost when people talk about his career. And there's a lot of information in his career that I've learned preparing to have you on that I'm sure is rudimentary for you, but I want to share it because I don't know that people realize what type of ball player he was. People say, "Oh, he was great. He was great," but the most home runs he hit in a season was 29.
mhm.
This was not a 40, 50 homer guy,
Right.
but he finished his career, if people don't know, with exactly 3,000 hits and was staying away from karma or things above. Let's just say I think that there's a reason he didn't end with 29.99.
Mhm.
So, and I'm going to see if I can pull up real quick just some of the stuff um, that I found really fascinating. And once again, you're going to laugh because this is all going to be stuff you know very well. Clemente had 18 major league seasons, or parts of 18 major league seasons.
Mhm.
His first 4 or 5 seasons, and you're talking about now 2,000, 2,500 at bats, he's really just learning to be a major leaguer starting at 20 years old. And then you look at 1960 and the run he goes on as an all-star all the way through, Gold Glove winner all the way through. His the black is when you lead the league in a category. So he led in batting average four separate times to give you the type of player he was. Led the league in triples once, hits twice. And his OPS plus for his career is 130, which for those of you who don't know is 30% above league average. And that's over an entire career, including the years he was learning. So it's tough to describe or find almost a comp for him. And I didn't even really mention, maybe the greatest arm in right field ever, and Gold Glove defense for his whole career. He had speed, but he didn't steal, a ton of bases. Have you ever saw a player that you felt like comped that skill set? I mean, it seems pretty unique to me.
Nope, because the World Series just finished, and Castellanos from the Phillies had a couple nice plays in right field, catching the ball. And Oz, my co-host on our podcast, he goes, says, when did Castellanos turn into Clemente? I said, stop it. I said,
Wow.
stop it. I said, stop it.
Clemente will throw Oz out from right.
Yeah, but he meant, it's like, dude, look at the, plays he's making in right field, the catches. But I mean, there's a highlight. It was in the first World Series appearance where there's a ball hit deep into the right field corner. Clemente grabs it on a spin, just spins, rips it to third base. He didn't throw the guy out, but the point was that anybody else, that guy scores. And the next pitcher, rounds out, and it is what it is. But the crazy thing is, dude, he was this close to being Jackie Robinson's teammate.
Yeah.
So imagine that.
Well, give the details on that. I'm nodding yes, but not everybody knows what you're talking
it's like,
about.
Because they bring, he signs a deal with at the time with the Dodgers, and they send him up to Montreal. He's in 54, so he's up there, and they knew what they had. That was like they knew that he was a stud. And the crazy part is they would hide him. He'd play, he'd get a hit, and then they'd just sit. They'd play second halves of the double headers where they knew that the scouts were already gone.
That's what they did to me in high school.
Yeah,
but they never put me in the game.
Well,
so I was told they were hiding me from the scouts.
Yeah.
But for some reason, the scouts never called, and I never got to play. So I think I got lied to.
The scouts were the name of the other team. That's what it was. The whatever it is, scouts. So,
all right. But wait, real quick, because I want to bust your freaking balls on this, and it's my show, so I'm going to say that 1971 World Series, Baltimore. And Sports Bolt is the podcast. It's the shirt. It's the logo. Let's be clear. Against the Pirates.
Yeah, man.
Orioles won in 70. Orioles, third year in a row they were in the World Series. Clemente, and I wanted to pull up the numbers here, in the World Series, it looks like he had 29 at-bats, batted .414 with a 1210 OPS. So evidently he was pretty good in postseason too.
Yeah, he wasn't bad. He actually basically single-handedly won that thing. But I mean, not yet. But so we had a recent conversation where we talked about what would be your dream sports memorabilia, whatever it is, anything you want.
All right, you're too good at this. You took my next question. So what if you won the lottery and had a dream piece of memorabilia, Tony? Yeah. What would it be?
It's that Charger that was given to Clemente for the MVP.
That's a great answer. I've never heard of the car.
Yeah,
that's a great one.
Because
natural question: do you drive it?
Yeah, so I was asked that, and I said no, but then I said, yeah, I'm driving it. Yeah, I'm driving it for sure. Driving that baby. Yep.
To me, it's like if you keep, I don't know, fine jewelry, that you wear once a year, twice a year for special event. You roll up in Clemente's Charger.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, that's not a run to 7-Eleven. No. That's a great answer.
Yeah, that's a true one of one.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, there wasn't parallels either. Okay. So for young people who you want them to kind of have a takeaway from Clemente and your passion, or just to give younger people an idea of what they should look for and to follow their passion. What advice might you give?
Basically, when that hurdle's in front of you, Don't jump over it. Kick it down. Okay.
Yep.
He, from changes his name from Roberto to Bob, things like that,
So
right?
will you talk about that, because that should be acknowledged, and it's on my 69 tops card. So
Yep.
maybe you can explain that.
Yeah. So basically, somewhere someone decided that the name Roberto was scary, offensive. I don't know what it is. And we're just going to change this guy's name to Bob because Bob is a more friendly, socially acceptable name. It's a bunch of BS, but back then that's what happened. And his 55 and 56 card, he's Roberto, and
Yep.
55 all the way through 69, he's Bob. Once you get to 70, then he finally went back to the guy's real name, and his close buddies did call him Bobby, things like that, and he was fine with that. But as far as somebody just you don't know off the street and you're just gonna call me Bob, like, come on, dude, have some respect.
So I'll say what you're beating around: flat out racist. And unfortunately, he's actually not the only player. So let's be fair. The card companies were this was not personal to him. This was kind of an overriding thing for a lot of players. Kareem's first 2 years is Lou Alcindor, and that certainly, I think, was known by that time what his name was.
Sure.
And that was a conscious decision by Topps those first 2 years to put Lou Alcindor. So there's been other examples of people being anglicized, and it was also done in the papers in the quotes. If a white Southern player with a thick drawl made a comment, a lot of times that would be cleaned up in the quote, and I'm using that as an example, or a Northeast Baltimore mumble, whatever it was, that would have been cleaned up. A lot of times, and you would maybe know this better from your research. The sports writers, from either lack of understanding how to do it or not caring, would almost go literal word for word in pronunciation in a player's second language. And in print, it comes across not as the player intended to, which makes it even tougher for some people to connect. Fair assessment?
Yeah. They would, right when he would speak, he being Clemente, he'd say, "Hey, I got a hit." Oh, he had an accent, so it came out as, "Hey, I got a heat," something like that. And they'd spell it in the paper as Heet.
Yeah.
So somebody who doesn't know who Clemente is or whatever, and they read this article, they think this guy's a freaking idiot.
Yeah.
So then that further, it's like the narrative that this guy, it's like, come on, dude. Like, that's, again, yeah, it's flat out racist, man. And thank goodness, things are a little better than now than what they were back then. But I mean, I can't even imagine, like, and then he'd wonder why he wouldn't want to talk to these guys.
Well, yeah, and once again, not just him,
No,
unfortunately.
not just him. Yeah, across the board. I
And I
mean, I
want to
can't
make,
even. Oh,
yeah, I just want to sadly make that point.
yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, he's just an example. I just know it because of just collecting this stuff. But yeah, I'm sure that there's a million other examples of that. And I mean,
Well, so I promised you that we would keep this to 20 to 30 minutes, which meant I did not know that I would love hearing your Clemente stories as much as I did. So I do want to see, I know you brought some stuff to show. I only have my one sad card, and now I feel like I need to go buy a lot of Clemente as quick as possible. So screw the the Road to Qatar set box I was going to buy. Show me some other Clemente stuff that I don't
so
have.
it's wild because I had a bunch of cards. I'm building his playing day set. So, but to get to this 55, I traded a bunch of my other stuff to get it. But some of the other items that I got my first 101 of him, and this is a game used patch, and it's multicolored. And you see there, it's a National Treasures.
The game
And
use patch is so
right.
ridiculous.
And you see the word arriba written on there at the bottom.
Educate me.
So arriba means, loosely translated, it means go up, go forward, things like that. So when we as Latinos play, you hear baseball and somebody gets a hit and you hear the word arriba, that means, let's go, keep going. And then so when you see Bryce Harper stand on second base and, do this when I mean he's like flexing his chest and he's singing, let's go. That's pretty much what it is. just something to motivate and get it going. So when I saw that, I was like, that's pretty cool. So,
So I guess the card companies have come a long way from Bob.
a little bit.
I mean, since I want to
Sure.
be fair,
Sure. Yeah.
we're criticizing back in the day.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother level.
To see this on a card now
Yeah,
when I have a Bob next to it says a
isn't that
lot. So yeah,
fascinating? I mean,
absolutely.
there's a little story about our country at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, tip of the hat. Kudos to the card companies. The next thing is my Clemente auto. This is cut piece of a baseball. And you see it there on the screen, and
Clemente autos, guys, by the way, are not run of the mill. They're far harder than Williams or DiMaggio or a lot of other players,
they're tough. They're out there, but they're tough. And
and they're not cheap.
no, so I definitely had to crack the piggy bank. This item and the next one are two that I picked up from a Clemente super collector. And this guy, he has like a museum in his house. And when I went to visit him, I was like, there was two goals in mind. I had one was an auto, and one was something off the beaten path of Clemente. So that leads me to probably the weirdest thing in my collection, and it's a blank check from the Clemente estate.
That is,
So you can see
and
it
that
there.
is slabbed in case people are confused.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it is
that means
slabbed.
this is authenticated. This is legit. That is very cool.
Yeah.
What name is used on that check?
Bob Clemente.
Yeah, it's just very interesting. As a fan
Yep.
of history, I'm always fascinated.
Yep. Bob Clemente, and on the slab it says Roberto Clemente family collection blank personal check. This is dated from the 70s.
And that's from the family collection. That's even cooler.
Yeah. So there was at one point there was a big estate sale, and they moved all kinds of items. I mean, things in the house, serving plates, all kinds of stuff.
Well, I
And
will say one of the saddest or most amazing stats I saw was over 18 years pre-tax, he earned under $1 million. Um, and if you and that might sound funny, but over 18 years, um, it was like $800,000, and that's pre-tax. So the difference in what players, in general, back then, you got a proportion when you hear about family sale. There's reasons for that,
yep.
and so I just want to bring that out there.
Yeah.
All right, so the Clemente conversation. I'm sorry. Anything else you want to add, Tony, on before we move on from Roberto?
The only thing I would finish with Roberto, and it's just a cheap plug for a buddy, a very good buddy of mine. He has a podcast, which when I started collecting, I was like, man, I like listening to podcasts because most of the time I'm in the car for work. I'm like, man, I wanted to know more. If I read, I don't read books, dude. If I read a book, I'll fall asleep in 5 minutes and it just doesn't happen. So I'll listen to it, no problem. But it's called the Talking 21 podcast. It's hosted by a good friend of mine, Mr. Danny Torres. And this guy is, man, what I know, I've learned from him. Forget about it. He's forgotten more about Clemente and he talks to family members of Clemente, people who are very close to him. So, and he, even up to this day, he talks to people about, who the Roberto Clemente in their life is and things like that. But that's definitely a podcast. Check it out. I can't recommend it enough. It's super interesting and fun.
That's awesome, and thank you for sharing that for people who want to learn more. And I am also running at the bottom of the screen. If you just want to learn more from Cousin Tony and Cousin Oz, as they call themselves, on Cousin Collectibles, you can see the information at the bottom, and I'll leave that up for a minute. So we both agree Roberto, as great as and respected as he is, probably still underrated compared with a lot of other superstars. But he's not the only one. So I wanted to just throw out a couple names that I think the hobby industry, even though they can be expensive, I still don't think the players and the cards get the love they should. So off the top of my head, and I'm going to start with the one that's going to be controversial, I have Willie Mays. I still don't think people realize how great he is. So,
oh boy,
because of the two rookie cards, and I say two rookie cards, whether you're counting the 51 Bowman or the 52 Tops, they're both beautiful cards. And so to have two beautiful cards as rookies and looking at his numbers, I mean, if you got time, hit Baseball Reference and you'll realize how underrated. And then Larry Doby and Stan Musial for different reasons. Larry Doby was about 30 days behind or 2 weeks behind Jackie Robinson when he made his debut in the American League with Cleveland. So most people know him at best for that. What they don't know is he was a heck of a ball player when they let him on the field finally, and the rest of his career. So I think he deserves some shout out. And Stan Musial, I don't know what this guy has to do. This guy literally had the exact same amount of hits at home and away in his career. Put that in perspective. You want ballpark factors, you want this, you want that. The exact same freaking amount of hits. The guy could just play. His numbers are off the charts. If he played today, we'd be talking about the best player of the last 20 years, conceivably. And I think he played in a time when there was just so many great players. And you know, a lot of his career, you know, was pre-integration or interrupted by the war, but his numbers hold up with really more guys than people realize. So I'm sure I'm missing about 400, so leave it in the comments. But did you have anybody that you thought maybe a little underrated?
Listen, first before the Willie Mays, to me, that's number one. You know, and it's, dude, the hobby, it's narratives. Okay.
Yep.
And narratives sometimes, you know, trump common sense, stats, you know, real life stuff. And it's just, this is the guy we're going to anoint, and forget about all this noise over here. Never mind that. Listen, if you stack up Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle,
There you go. Thank
pound
you.
for pound, it's, to me, it's not close.
And to be fair,
Yeah.
Mantle got hurt, and you can't judge what he could have been.
Right.
You know, maybe that's a different conversation. Had he stayed healthy, maybe we have a more of an equal. But I think we both agree that Mays was probably the better career overall.
Yeah. So I mean, it's it is what it is. But it's crazy. The one guy I want to talk about, and this is junk wax era, but still, it doesn't make to me any sense of why this is. It's Greg Maddux. Listen, all right, yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Keep
go ahead.
talking.
Dude,
You're in my wheelhouse. I got something here I want to pull out.
Greg Maddux, machine.
During the steroid era.
Yes. Okay. And what, it's crazy. So, you know, he's the only pitcher, 300 wins, 3,000 Ks, and less than 1,000 walks.
Yep.
Okay. In the steroid era. And with not 99 miles an hour, you know, not Randy Johnson overpower you, just throw it through the freaking catcher and the guy flies, just precision. And it was crazy. I'm looking it up, dude. His Donruss PSA 10, it's like $250.
Oh yeah, and the 9 is worth like $15.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, and I don't understand. The Topps trade is like $750, but again, that's the most important position in baseball. And he's one of the top guys, and it's just
pitchers and catchers don't get hobby love overall. I mean, I'm not talking about your Walter Johnsons or Sandy Koufax's, or Johnny Bench, Yogi Berra, but it's a short list when you're counting, the love you'll give a first baseman, who couldn't play defense.
Yep. Yeah, it makes no sense. You got the top two. Go ahead. I want to see what you got there.
Okay. So I actually worked for the Braves the first 2 years, the first year and part of the second year that Turner Field opened. And this is pretty much the height of Glavine, Maddux, and Smoltz. And this is the ticket to the first game ever at Turner Field.
Wow, that is nice.
So when you talk about, Maddox's career, I was lucky enough to work there while he pitched. I was lucky enough to see him pitch live. And as a baseball fan, as a part of my life, I felt like I was seeing, next to Pedro, maybe the best guy over a 20-year period. What a great name to throw out there. Look at his numbers. Even, if people aren't familiar, his first Cy Young was with the Cubs. So look at that,
right?
Yeah, look at that whole career, and it's just unbelievable. And not to give a TMI, but to see the guy in the clubhouse in a jockstrap, not a muscle on his body, not a muscle on his body. My accountant is built better than Greg Maddux. Okay. But somebody touched that arm and said, you can put the ball wherever you want, and you can manipulate it and go have fun. And he did. So great name.
Yeah. This just crazy, man. And one guy, and then, I don't want to take over your show with this. We just flow, Danny. There's one guy I want to ask you, Brooks Robinson, because for us, it's Mike Schmidt. Why, so you're talking about the top two guys. arguably, guys in your area say Brooks. Up here we say Mike, but no
Well,
love.
first of all, you're not from Philly,
No,
so
that's
okay,
true.
so easy with this we up here, okay? Because I'm going to call you on playing both sides of that,
There you
okay?
go.
But Brooks was unmatched defensively. I don't care about Gold Gloves for Schmidt. Difference. Um, yeah, turf might play faster, but it also plays cleaner. Um, and so you're comparing apples and oranges to me defensively. If a ball goes by Schmidt, it's not an error. If Brooks got a bad hop in his chest, it would be. So I think that's never talked about, and Brooks is still considered as good, if not a better defender. So, and I think it's not even close. So let's start there. Second of all, Brooks won an MVP. People forget, that there was that side that he could hit. He was not the hitter that Schmidt was, but he was a much better hitter, specifically in postseason than people realize. And when you talk about a guy that was revered, you're talking a 20-some year career. I mean, that alone shows, he made the majors. I mean, at like 9 years old. I think, when he came in and he retired at 84. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
This guy, and there was a reason for that. There's a reason that he was generally considered the greatest third baseman of all time until maybe you got to the Brett Schmidt conversation. But I'm going to stand by it. Other people are, I know there's other people in the conversation, but I'm going to stand by Brooksy, and his 57 Topps rookie is one of my favorite cards and one of my favorite sets. And Schmidt was like Dave Kingman with.
Oh my goodness. Well, we'll agree to disagree, but that's
fair enough. All right, so was that your list?
Yeah, that was my list, and I mean, and just I guess if you wanted to talk football, the only guy came top of my mind is LaDainian Tomlinson. Because talking about, and again, we're getting away from quarterbacks, but this dude was like a killer.
And we were making the comment outside of quarterbacks. I mean, nobody gets love.
Nope. No, I think Jerry Rice might be the only guy that kind of may be able to trump that a
even
little
today.
bit.
What should Aaron Donald's cards be going for versus Kyler Murray?
Oh,
and look at the prices out there, people. You can go get some real sick Aaron Donald, a bunch of them for a Kyler Murray. Yeah.
You know what, though? I mean, I touched on narratives earlier. We actually have the power to change that. If we start chasing those Aaron Donalds and talking about them, making them not so much pumping it, but making people aware that this guy is a dominant force. He's a generational player. He should be respected in the hobby, not just be some guy that's in a bargain box because Kyler Murray. I don't want to pick on Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray
or Justin Fields,
whatever.
Right? They all go for more.
Whoever. Those guys are not generational players. Aaron Donald, not everybody's like that. So and again, we as the hobby, we kind of tend to follow along, and
Then I'll throw a Bruce Smith at you.
Okay.
If you and Reggie White at the same time. Yep. I think Lawrence Taylor gets a little bit more respect than they do, and I think they were probably as good of players. Taylor had some big moments, but I think we're probably pretty much on the same page that there's probably 1,000 guys that are not quarterbacks that should get some hobby love. And you're right, we have the power to change it, but we got to decide if we're going to go buy those cards. So, if there's no demand, then prices don't really move, unfortunately. Yeah. Well, we are way over because you're way too cool. So, Tony, I know we ran into the bottom of the screen before, but please let everybody know where they can find you and Oz, and, so they can hear more about your big brain.
Absolutely. Well, first, appreciate you giving me the chance to talk. Like I said, we can talk forever, anytime. Clearly. So, definitely you can follow. We're at cousins_collectibles on Instagram. We have our podcast that comes out every Monday. We talk hobby. We talk, and we don't. This is kind of what our show is, talking more about what cards mean to you, and anybody. We can bring up charts and things like that. But this is what we talk about. We're very passionate about our sports. Very, very passionate about that. But yeah, and then we release an episode on Thursdays on YouTube, and so you can check out. And my cousin, who is my co-host, he's at Oz the People's Mailman on Instagram. So
and now Twitter. You guys are in the Twitterverse.
yeah, Twitter as well.
You're
We're
not
not
even
as
used to that yet. I can
yeah,
tell.
yeah, we're not as
Yes.
active over there, but yeah, we're at Cousins Podcast over there, and it is what it is. With most of our stuff is on Instagram because we like that.
Nothing's on Twitter because Twitter is for 40-year-old guys like me.
I'm a
So,
40-year-old guy, so
well, in that case, get your butt on Twitter more.
I know I got to, and then eventually, I guess I'll graduate to. I guess Facebook now is for 50 and up. Is that how it all kind of
I'm
works
I'm
anymore?
I'm so past it. My LinkedIn account is old.
So,
All right, well, buddy, I mea culpa for not having you on sooner. This was absolutely fantastic. I learned more than I expected, but that's why you do these things, so you can be a sponge and talk to people who know more than you do. So I hope people follow you guys and listen more because you guys do a great job. And as far as my podcast, please click like and subscribe. YouTube, online, and as far as my release schedule, it is whenever I feel like it and whenever I have something worthy to say. I just go ahead and put it out there. So that's kind of my approach.
yeah, real quick, look for Danny Black on the Future Cousins Collectibles podcast. There's the plug for you.
Ooh, he's teasing me now. This is breaking news. I don't have a graphic for that yet. Well, I'm more than honored, and any time it would be more than my pleasure. Tony Ramos, pleasure, my friend. Enjoy Reading, Pennsylvania.
Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching another edition of the Baltimore Sports Collectibles podcast at Sports Vault, and we'll see you on the next episode.